Previously, on our last two episodes of building the array, we went through the process of building the wooden frame and adding the Superstrut to it that we'll be using for attaching the solar panels to. The previous two videos will be linked down in the description below. Before we begin attaching the panels, we want to add our bottom panel mounting clips, which will stop the panels from sliding off when we toss it on. I'm setting the panel clamps 5 3/4 inches from the end, which should be the same distance at both the top and the bottom of the Superstrut. I intentionally left the strut a little longer as it gives me something to grab onto if needed for moving the array, as well as keeps the panels further away from the ground at the lowest point. When it comes to adding the panels, you'll find it incredibly easy to leave the array at its lowest point and just toss the panels on and start stacking them. In between each panel, we add 2 panel spacing clamps before adding the next panel. This gives a little bit of space between the panels, as well as clamps the 2 adjoining panels together. As you go up the mount with the panels, you'll find it gets increasingly more difficult as the panels are quite heavy, I believe around 70 pounds. It was at the top panel where I realized I made a poor life choice here. While I could walk up on a ladder with the panel, which is not really safe to do, and chuck it up there, I did not really want to do that. The smart thing to do would be to set the whole array horizontal and toss them up and start clamping them down while it's still horizontal. If you're as dull as I am and decide to wait until you have a few panels on before putting the array horizontal though, you'll find it's now incredibly heavy and quite hard to do. I highly recommend starting at the horizontal point for sure. Hindsight, definitely 20/20 there. When it comes to putting on the last panel, you can either slide it in from the side or lift it over the edge of the Superstrut and slide it down. If you do go over the strut route like I did, be careful not to scrape the backside of the panel on the strut, as it will easily damage the panel. Once you have a column completed, you can see it effortlessly bounces out once again. The last thing you'll need to do to finish off a column is add the end clamps to the panel and tighten it down. It's a fairly straightforward process, just make sure you never torque down any of the clamps beyond hand tight, as the force of the clamps can actually break the panels if you tighten them down too hard. Alright, time to speed through most of the rest of putting these panels on. The easiest way that I found to put them up was to simply just go from the side and toss them on from the side in between pieces of Superstrut and then sliding them around to where I needed them to be. I then used a step stool, because I'm short, to tighten down the panel clamps in between each panel. I have a stop block on both the front and rear of my post to make sure that the array cannot tilt either way on me as I lean over the panels to tighten things down. The time lapse doesn't have me putting every single panel on, as I had to step away during this process for a few hours and completed the last bit off camera when it was dark. Obviously, as work is being done here, you should have your OSHA-approved footwear to fully maximize your efficiency while working. With all of the panels on, we can test out our balance of the whole array with everything done. It's not perfectly balanced, as it will fall either direction if it's beyond about 30 degrees, but I'm fine with that. It's still fairly simple to raise and lower with just one hand, though at the extreme angle for wintertime it does take a bit more effort to move. The next and likely final separate video for this array will come out next, where I go over what I'll be doing for the tilt and locking mechanism. I really wanted to have it done by actuators, but I still have more to learn before I can confidently do that and not damage the panels. Maybe one day down the road we'll do it. I was also going to do a video on the math of building this, but I don't know about doing that. If you guys want me to do so, let me know and I can revisit the idea. But that's all for today's part of the video. As always, if you like the content I'm putting out, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all new content as it comes out. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care.